Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a very fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. Now, I really enjoy eyeshadow singles, duochromes, multichromes, blush, highlight, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter, and today we're going to be doing a ranking of all the palettes that I tried in January. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me, we're getting into it right now. So I do want to give a couple of honorable mentions first. Now, I did do a video basically duping out the vibes of the Cold Moon palette from Ensley Rain Cosmetics, and then I did my sort of rendition of that, which I honestly wish I got to play with this palette a little bit more before I break it down and put it away, but I do have some other things that I want to sort of build a dupe palette for, so I do need to break this one down, but I think this was really pretty. Like, this is probably one of my favorite BYOPs to date, so I wanted to shout those out quickly, but they will not be formally ranked. And then I have been using the Strawberry Shortcake blush from Glamlight. That's actually the blush I have on right now, which I think is super cute. Although it's kind of like a white toned pink, like it has a strong white to it, I still think it actually looks pretty nice on the cheeks. And then this ColourPop. This is the Might as Shell Super Shock Highlighter Kit, and it's from, they had like a seashell collection over the summer, so it's the 4 Super Shocks in the lighter palette. I think the deeper palette just sold out not too long ago on their website. And then I did also want to shout out the Lunar New Year Tower 28. This is the Dumpling Hour blush. Like, I had to buy a blush that said Dumpling Hour. I just had to because I love dumplings. All right, and so did my kids. It did also come with this lip gloss, which is like a gold iridescent kind of lip gloss, but the blush for sure needed a shout out. And then this was the face palette that I used in January. This is the Blend Bunny Forget Me Not. And as I suspected, I did not originally purchase this palette when it launched because I figured I was not going to use it a ton, and I was correct. This month I used predominantly this shade for like a contour. I used a little bit of this shade once to try to make a blush out of it, and it's too light for me. And then I did use the 2 highlight shades here. So I do like it. I think it's a great companion palette, but it's not like my ideal eyeshadow palette because I don't do all neutral soft tones like this, but like very bridal. Like, she definitely nailed what she was going for. It's just not my ideal color story. So I have 14 palettes to rank for you this month, and if you saw my January palette bundle video, if not, I'll try to link it there. If you did not see that video, but basically my goal is to use all of the palettes that I have unused that I've already purchased. Like, they're sitting here, they're not getting love. I want them to get love this year. So that's my goal. And I made a deal with myself that I could still buy whatever palettes I want as they release, but I need to be able to use everything up in the month that I receive it. And I did get an order or two that were back orders from last year that I did not account for in my spreadsheet, so I'm trying to give myself just a little bit of grace to work those in at some point. All right, coming in at number 14, this is the Revolution Ultimate Desire palette, and it's one of the palettes that they kind of mimicked from like the Huda Beauty 9 Pans. This one is not an identical color story, but some of the other ones in this particular like rendition or line from Revolution definitely mimic the Huda palettes. This one, I was drawn in by the pinks and then this really pretty like metallic olivey green, and I will say this is a very nice metallic-y olive green, but everything else in here is really light, really soft, just really very meh, so it came in dead last. I was not impressed by that palette at all. Next up is the Huda Beauty Khaki Haze palette, and this one I got to try a little bit this month. It looks like this. Now, I have not tried this bottom row really because I don't care too much about those like warm toned orangey copper shades, but I did try the other shades in this palette and I think they're nice. The matte green and this deep kind of plummy brown I think are really nice complements to one another, but again, it's like kind of one note, right? There's only so many looks you can make with this type of palette, so it fell a little lower for that reason. Same with the Nabla Cutie Platinum palette, and this one looks like this. Again, like, I just wasn't super interested in this shade, but I did use these 2 shades and these 2 shades to make an upper eye look, and then I like smoked out this on the bottom lash. It was a really nice eyeshadow look. I do really like the quality of this palette, but it's not something where I'm just like dying to return back to this palette. So for me, it kind of fell a little bit lower for that reason. And then next, this is one of the Makeup Revolution palettes. It's part of their Fortnite collection, I think. I don't play Fortnite, so I don't know anything about that. But I guess this means something to somebody out there. And there's a trio of palettes, but this is the first one that I tried. It's really, really, really soft. Like, this is a really nicely pigmented eyeshadow. Everything else in here is very softly pigmented, to the point where when I tried to use this on my outer V to kind of smoke out the outer corner, it just wasn't happening. Like, I needed something more intense to really make this contrast. I do like this shade here. It's kind of a like a rosewood shade, and it's got pink and iridescent kind of lime little pinpoints stuck into it as like a marbled shadow. I think that's a really pretty eyeshadow. Overall, I'm not mad at the looks that I did. This is not from this, let me tell you. This palette could never make something this intense, but I just was thinking there was going to be like more to it. Like, I thought it was going to be more intense, more pigmented than what it was. Next up is the Rude Cosmetics Roaring 20s Excessive palette, and let me pull the little cover off here. It looks like this. Now, I basically ignored these two rows other than this shade here. I really don't care for these Petri dish shades at all, but I used the rest of these. This shade is a marbled shade that has some really nice like gold pinpoints in it. I thought that was very pretty. I liked these two shades as well. The mattes that I used in here were like these 4 shades basically, and then I used this jalopy shade, which is like a silvery white with like some purple and gold type pinpoints in it. Overall, I think it's really pretty. It's nice quality. I think it's more pigmented than the Revolution palettes, which is why it rose up a little bit higher. But its size and the fact that there's like a third or so of the palette that I'm not going to use was part of why it ranked a little bit lower. Next up is the Glamlite Garfield palette. Now, this one I was really excited to try out. I had no reason buying this palette. Like, you guys know, warm tones are not my, that's not my color story in the least, but I was very drawn to the yellow, and I was very drawn to this like kind of burgundy corner down here. I did end up using these shades and then this Nap Attack shade to make an eye look, and it was an okay eye look. The quality of the actual shades is really, really nice. I have no objection to the quality. It's the color story on my eyes that it doesn't quite go where I want it to go. So for me, it ranked a little bit lower, but I am excited to have it. I love collecting Glamlite stuff. I don't collect all their stuff because they release a lot of stuff. But I was really excited to get this one. Next up is the Clarity Cosmetics Croc palette, which looks like this. And I did, I think, a look or two out of this particular palette using these kind of soft greens, this brown, and then I was using a combination of this shade and I believe some of this shade here. This shade down here is like hyper sparkly. So for me, when I put it on with everything else that I was using in my look, it felt a little bit too much, which is unusual for me because normally the more sparkle, the better. But this one, I think because it's so gold, just felt like a little bit too much on my eyes in particular. I would like to use this one a little bit more to kind of just use some of these softer shades and see what I think of an eye look just with those shades. But I think it's a good quality, and I like the overall, the mattes, the way that they blended, the color, the pigmentation, the depth. So it rose up kind of to about the halfway mark. Coming in at number 7 is the Gone Metal palette from ColourPop, and it looks like this, basically just your smoky neutral palette. I had wanted to give this one a try, and it took me forever and a day to finally pick it up. I picked it up during Black Friday because just every time I was at Target, it just wasn't the right time to pick it up. So finally picked it up, gave it a try. I do like the quality a lot. I love these sort of like deep metallic-y kind of shades. I think they are very nice, and I like that this goes very deep, but it's not a pure black, because I think they've done that in enough color stories that we didn't need to do it again. And now we're getting into the stuff that I really liked this month. Like, these were like my winners from the month. Coming in at 6 is the ColourPop Twilight palette, and I wasn't sure I was originally going to pick this up because I care zero about Twilight. You can watch my video and I'll tell you the exact same thing. But I saw the color story, this sort of like swampy blues and greens, very cool toned, and I was very interested at that point. Like, I could care less about the Twilight part of it, but if they had released this and called it like the Swamp Witch, I still would have bought it, purchased it. Wow. Yeah, so I do really like the color story. I think the This shade in here is like a duochrome shade, and I think that's actually quite nice. I like the other metallics that are in here. And then you have these two kind of like their new pressed glitter formula that is allegedly eye safe, but I don't really know. Overall, I liked the eye look that I did with this palette, or the looks that I did with this palette, and definitely would be one that I recommend when they do a restock. Eking that out just a little bit was the Nomad New Zealand Stargazing palette, and I really liked this palette too. Now, this one it's a cool color story, which I really appreciate. I love the combination of the pinks and blues. I really like the combination of this orange, or the addition of this orange multichrome that's an iridescent in here, because I think it creates a nice contrast between the rest of the shades. So I really enjoyed using that in my eye looks. This blue shade in here is so stupid pretty, it's ridiculous. The one sort of drawback that I have is I feel like these two blues were very similar, so I'm not sure we needed them. Same with these two shades, same with these two shades. Like, I think they were trying to make kind of like one lighter, one deeper for each of those undertones, but I just don't think they were differentiated enough to make it worthwhile. So for me, like, I reach into this one, but I skip over that one. I've reached into both of these, but they blend into each other so easily. They look like the same color. And then when I went to go use these two, I just used this one because I didn't want to have the same thing happen. So that's my only kind of criticism for this one, and why it fell a little lower than the other 4 palettes we're going to talk about next. These last 4, these were hard to rank, you guys. I was like tossing this around for a while. So coming in at number 4 is the Cosmic Brushes Winter Wonderland palette, and I was really excited to get this one. I love the quality of these palettes. If you have never tried Cosmic Brushes, I would compare their quality and their formulas to like a Glam Light formula. They're very pigmented, and the metallics are super buttery and sort of emollient in quality, very like twinkly, and then you have some really nice duochromes, multichromes in here. I really enjoyed the addition of this shade here because that pop of kind of the pink was, I think, very nice. I like that you have the teals, you have more pure blues, and then you have the purples up here too. Like, I thought that was a cool addition. I mean, I hope they're okay, but also that was loud. The only thing that, like, I get why it's there, but it wouldn't have been my personal choice, is this shade here, because it's an iridescent that pulls very gold. And I think with the rest of the palette, I don't know that that was the move. I think like a silvery something would have been better. Maybe an iridescent with blue or purple, something that just was a little bit more cohesive with the rest of the palette. But I do think it's overall a very pretty color story. Very happy to have it. The Element 115 palette from Adept Cosmetics, and I really like the color story in this one. Obviously mine doesn't look too roughed up because I'm very gentle with the Adept palettes. They're a very like squishy formula. I did actually make an eye look and used this and literally went back and forth like this, and then ran that across my lid so it kind of maintained those sort of striped quality. I thought that was actually really cool, and I really enjoyed doing that. The metallics in here I think are very pretty. I really like Reverse Engineer and UFO. I think is a really like bright, intense, beautiful color. So I was very happy to have that. And then I love the matte selection that they have down here. Like, these are my shades. This is my vibe entirely. So overall, this came up pretty high because I was really impressed with it. Eking it out just a little bit is the Shall We Makeup Mist Witch palette. And I got the mini, so there is a bigger version with 26mm pans, but this is the mini, and I think the mini is fine for me because obviously I'm not hitting pan on anything anytime soon. The looks that I did with this I thought came out really nice, and the intensity of the metallics in here is like top notch. It's definitely that kind of squishy duochrome formula that a lot of private label brands use, so if that's a formula that you really like, I definitely think that you would like this palette. I did also see this morning that they're sneak peeking a new palette, Wolfa or something. I'm curious to see what that is. And then coming in at number 1 is the Aurora Lights palette. This is from Simply Posh Cosmetics. Palette looks like this. This is like my dream color story. This is me in a color story. Like swampy greens, cool tone blues, cool tone purples, some like kind of lavender pink shades here, grays. This is my jam. So I loved using this palette. The metallic duochrome shades in here are beautiful. I think with these particular shades, you do have enough of a difference in the depth of each of the shades that there is a difference when you put them on the lid, so I really appreciate that. And then of course, like aesthetically, just the packaging is very pretty as well. So overall, that made it up to number 1. All right, and with that being said, that is everything for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go, and I'll see you in my next one.